Good evening from Caracas. For Telesur, I'm Cody Whittle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin tonight in Colombia, where President Juan Manuel Santos has halted peace talks between the FARC guerrilla group and the government. And for more on the situation, we are joined live by our correspondent in Colombia, Charles Parkinson. Charles, hello again. The president has suspended the peace talks following the disappearance of a Colombian general and others. The FARC at first did not take any responsibility. Do we have any updates tonight from FARC leaders or from the president?
Well, President Juan Manuel Santos has just finished speaking on national television. He didn't actually give us any new information. He simply called on the FARC to hand the general over. We know that the FARC delegation in Havana is going to make an official statement tomorrow at 9 a.m. Cuba time. But perhaps the most important development that we've seen is that journalists have gone down to the area where the general was taken and spoken to the local community, and they have said he walked away under no duress with three civilian-clothed people who turned up on a boat shortly after he did. So the circumstances surrounding his disappearance or surrounding his detention seem very odd indeed.
All right, Charles, so this has been characterized really as a pause or suspension, but is there any indication that this development could actually lead just to the complete collapse of the talks altogether?
I mean, Juan Manuel Santos seems to be threatening that, but a lot of people are saying, lots of human rights activists and people have come out today to say we cannot stop the peace process. It has come too far for us to stop it now. And we can only hope that Juan Manuel Santos privately is thinking the same. We also need to know what the genuine circumstances are behind this general's detention before any kind of assumptions can be made on the future of the process.
And Charles, do we have any idea of the effect this might have on Colombian politics and the presidency of Juan Manuel Santos? Could you explain that for us? Also, are there any allegations of involvement by former President Álvaro Uribe?
Well, I'll get to the second part first, the involvement of Álvaro Uribe. Now, obviously, nothing's been confirmed about his potential involvement, but what is important to note is that he was one of the people that first went public with this story. He said that a guerrilla command kidnapped the general they had turned up with rifles, and now what we're hearing is that that was not the case. So while it's unlikely that we're ever going to see a link between Uribe and this incident proven, he has in the past been linked to many other nefarious acts. Now, what we're going to have to wait for is the answer to what actually happened here before we know the effect it could have on Santos's presidency. But obviously, he was elected earlier this year based on his promise to bring peace to Colombia.
All right, Charles, thanks once again for your reporting. We're going to move on to our continuing coverage in Mexico now in the case of 43 missing students. In Mexico, the nation begins its week on the heels of a number of intense protests that continue to demand the return of the 43 disappeared students alive. Now, while street protests and marches continue to be the main form of action, many are taking on other activities to express their solidarity and indignation. Here's our correspondent Clayton Kahn with more.
Rodolfo has been shining shoes in Mexico City's historic Coyoacán for a quarter of a century. He says he has seen politics go rotten in his country, but now, with the Ayotzinapa case, he believes the corruption goes high and is at a breaking point.
There is a lot of corruption in the higher-ups, so either this corruption ends at once, or we will rise up in arms.
Yet, overall, the widespread discontent is expressed in civil and pacific protest, much like this group of youth using art and street theater to express their solidarity with Ayotzinapa.
We have come to express our disagreement with respect to everything that has been happening recently in the country. The injustice, repression. We are tired, fed up as students, and I believe it concerns everyone. We can't say that politics or the country is not important to us, since we form part of it.
The forms of protest take on a different tone here as academics, legal experts, and activists orchestrate a symbolic trial of the country's highest authorities.
There is a trial going on. We know it is a symbolic trial, but it has a legal basis. Each complaint that is being expressed today has a basis in the Constitution, and the Constitution states that a president can be tried for treason to the homeland.
For the thousands who continue to take to the streets, as long as the 43 disappeared students remain missing, this case won't go away, nor will their call for justice. Clayton Khan, Telesur, Mexico City.
And thanks to Clayton. In Buenos Aires, Argentina, a group protested in front of the Mexican embassy on Monday in a show of solidarity with the people of Mexico. They also demanded government action in the case of the 43 missing students. Now, the small group of protesters waved flags and chanted slogans outside the building as police stood by. The demonstration was led by the left-wing Quebracho group, which blames the Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto for the disappearance of the students. The leaders of the group, Ezequiel Lopardo, called for all Latin Americans to stand with the Mexican people in solidarity.
We believe it is for all of Latin America to show solidarity and be present in every corner of the grand Latin American country. And we say to the Mexican embassy and to Argentina that they should come out in solidarity with the Mexican people and call for justice because they can't get away with these crimes.
And we go to Brazil now, where a widening corruption scandal at state oil company Petrobras may change the country forever. That's according to President Dilma Rousseff. Her remarks come after police arrested top executives of some of the country's largest construction firms. They made the arrest after allegations of money laundering and bribery. Rousseff says that the investigations will help end impunity in the nation. And in world news, Czechs marked the 25th anniversary of the fall of communism in Prague on Monday by again marching in protest, this time waving red cards as a symbol for unpopular leaders. Now, while President Milos Zeman was hosting presidents of neighboring countries, people rallied outside raising the red card showing discontent with his government. Growing numbers of Czechs feel that ideals of their peaceful resolution, such as the defense of human rights, have been sidelined by economic interests. That's despite the fact that those ideals were once a trademark of post-1989 Czech foreign policy. Refugees fleeing violence in Syria and Iraq may face a harsh winter. Nearly 14 million people have been displaced by the conflict in Syria and Iraq. Many remain without food and shelter and rely on UN support. Meanwhile, the UN is facing a budget shortfall of $58 million.
Winter in that area has snow, has lots of rain, and has negative temperatures. So it is obviously a challenge to make sure that people can survive and can have a minimum of comfort in those terrible circumstances. And we are still, as I said, as of yesterday, we're still lacking $58 million just for that project.
Staying in Syria, fighting continues in the town of Kobani on Monday morning. Occasional plumes of smoke could be seen rising from the besieged border town. The United States forces have also hit targets in the city. Kobani has become a symbolic struggle in the fight against the Islamic State. It has been encircled by the Muslim insurgents for over 50 days. Kurds are hoping the arrival of the Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga forces will help turn the tide. The Peshmerga have helped forces in Kobani take control of some villages on its outskirts. They have not been able to alter the lines of control inside the town. And we finish on a lighter note and a sports note. The debate about who is the world's best soccer player will continue when Lionel Messi faces Cristiano Ronaldo. Argentina will play Portugal on Tuesday. Barcelona's Messi and Real Madrid's Ronaldo are seen as the world's best. FIFA's Player of the Year award has become a two-horse race between the pair in recent years. Argentina coach Martino says Messi will get his vote every year for the award. He admitted, though, his bias, saying that because he is Argentine, his heart just lies with Messi. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. We'll see you right back here in the morning.